Hey, today's episode is brought to you by, in part anyways, Cedar's Seeds. That's right. CedarsSeeds.com. Get your, you plant your own cannabis. If it's legal in your state, we can ship it anywhere. And if you enter 420 at the checkout, you'll get 20% off your entire order because our site was down during the actual 420 deal. So also, we got a loyalty program now, apparently. Every $10 you spend earns you a point. Every 10 points you earn gets you 15% off at checkout. And every 25 points you earn can be used to redeem a free packet of Maestro, one of the seeds. We got like 4 or 5 different types of seeds over there. So welcome back. Happy growing. Still time. CedarSeeds.com. All units are sold in packets of 6 seeds. Promo code 420. Shipping is free, and the deal ends May 15th at 11:59 p.m. We will put that in the podcast and YouTube description. And now it's time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
And I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Wednesday, May 10th, 2023. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Dennis Tajer, Communications and Committee Chair Captain for the Allied Pilots Association, on the potential for a major airlines pilot strike. Also on the program today, Greg Iwinski from the Writers Guild of America East. He's a council member and a member of the WGA negotiating committee from a picket line in New York City on the writers' strike. Also on the program today, jury finds Donald Trump liable for sexual abuse and defamation, going to cost him several millions of dollars. Meanwhile, CNN still holding its town hall tonight, featuring very same sexual abuser and defamer.
Whoa.
Speaking of which, legal problems, Republican Representative George Santos charged with 13 counts, including fraud, theft of public funds, money laundering.
What?
Could be worth 20 years-ish. Also on the program today, I guess that,
Ish.
that didn't quite work.
Yeah.
After 91 votes missed, Dianne Feinstein is supposedly back in the Senate. Meanwhile, Dick Durbin also doing his very best to slow judicial confirmations. Inflation news, good, clocks in under expectation. Debt talks continue with Joe Biden floating unspent COVID relief clawback, but also a 14th Amendment resolution.
I like that.
This you will not. As Title 42 set to roll back, the Biden administration is attempting to add new asylum restrictions very, very similar to Trump's.
Do not like that.
Florida attacks school books and the teachers union. Washington State passes legislation to protect trans kids from estranged parents. Tucker Carlson says he's going to do a Twitter show. And then Elon Musk realized, ooh, I could get sued because of this. Lastly, Starbucks closing every store in Ithaca in its latest union busting tactic. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. It is, oh gosh, this is a big day for Emma Vigland, my co-host, because
It is Hump Day.
there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We are halfway past through the week, and it's just getting crazier and crazier by the day. Want to remind you before we get into this about Donald Trump, and then we talk about the potential pilot strike and the ongoing writer's strike. If you live, and I'm not sure exactly what district it is, it's a Delaware County special election in Pennsylvania. It is happening on Tuesday, I believe. Can we just get confirmation on that? But I believe it's happening a week essentially from yesterday.
May 16th, so.
Oh, yes,
Tuesday.
okay. And as you know, if you live in Pennsylvania, you have a one-vote majority. Or I guess it's a tied in the House. Or maybe no, it's a one-vote majority. And the sitting Democratic representative in that House, Mike Zabel, had to resign in March. Apparently, he was sexually harassing a lobbyist. There is a Republican running. There is a Libertarian running. The Democrat in the race, I know nothing about her, Heather Boyd, former congressional and state legislative aide. This is a pretty solid Democratic district, but I wouldn't take anything for granted. I don't know anything about Heather Boyd other than she's going to vote with the Democrats, and that's huge in that state.
This is House District 163. It includes the Delaware County municipalities of Alden, Clifton Heights, Collingdale, and parts of Darby and Upper Darby townships.
So vote. Tell your friends to vote. If you have friends in that district, if you live in that district, hopefully you have a friend in there or a parent, or just go and vote and make sure that that House stays Democratic. All right, let's go to this. Have you heard this news?
I think I have.
It seems to be people are talking about it.
Well, there was a lot of
People are talking about it on Blue Sky.
Yeah, well, you're all up
Open
on
Sky, Open Sky.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what.
Wait, is that a
hell
new
he's
thing?
talking about.
What is it? Blue Sky?
Blue Sky, yeah.
Oh, is it Blue Sky? I can't remember. It's Blue Sky. Yeah, people talking about Blue
You're
Sky.
certainly
Your
cooler than
volunteer,
us.
lobbying for it is, you should get the name right.
I should get the name
Honestly,
right. Yeah.
Dorsey should pay us, and then maybe we could, have cameras that don't go berserk. something
Dorsey?
like that.
Oh, Jack Dorsey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's,
Right.
okay.
All right. Well, anyway, have I heard the news? Yes, I have. The E. Jean Carroll suit or George Santos. Which one are we talking
Well,
about here?
let's talk about Trump. We will get to Santos later. Santos is also going to have. We should also say, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. But there are implications for Santos's indictment here, because there were about 3 votes missing in that April vote.
Yeah.
To essentially give McCarthy the position he's taking with the debt ceiling.
His margins are getting.
There was
gonna
3
get
votes
slimmer.
missing.
Yeah.
And the Democrats, I think, and 2 of them were Democrats missing, and 1 was Republican. The Republicans won by 2 votes. You do the math there. Santos could be the deciding vote on that bill, and in which case, the Republicans could have a problem. We got to do a little more digging as to why those 2 Democrats weren't there and why that 1 Republican wasn't there. But illness could have kept them out. But we'll get to that in a bit. So Donald Trump, remember, this is a civil case. It's not a criminal case. So he was not convicted of a crime. He was held civilly liable for sexual assault and for defamation. He was found not liable for rape. And it is unclear why the jury decided that way. She had claimed that, and under New York state law, penetration of a vagina by a penis constitutes rape, unconsented in that instance. She made that claim.
Yes.
But apparently she could only substantiate that he was sexually assaulting her. But he is held liable. I think the verdict was $5 million.
It was $2 million around for the sexual abuse, and then the rest, close to $3 million, was for the defamation element.
So he's not going to jail. He's not a criminal in that sense. He was civilly found liable. There's a lower standard than there would be for criminal. And the reason why he was able to do that in terms of the civil liability and not subject to the statute of limitations, which it would be under a criminal code, was because the New York State Legislature rolled back in 2022 these type of claims. If you recall, about, 4 or 5 years ago, I was in Vegas for the tort conference, and it interviewed, I cannot remember her name. Her name escapes me. I think she was a former gymnast who had led the charge to get the rollback of the statute of limitations in terms of sexual molestation of minors. And this followed, those claims, because there was a lot more hostility to reporting these things. There's still a tremendous amount of hostility to reporting these things, in the past decades. And under this sort of like cultural shift that we have, again, not a huge one, but one, New York revisited this and said old claims can be pursued. And that's what happened here. And that was added to the defamation case.
Yeah. And we should say, I mean, the Me Too movement in many ways was sparked by the Access Hollywood tape, which was used it was one of the impetuses for the Me Too explosion in 2016. Harvey Weinstein also found guilty. Trump now found liable. There's a lot of kind of chickens coming home to roost in the 6-7 years since we kind of had some of this reckoning, or 5 years. I can't do math.
I totally agree with you. I think the frustration that our society felt that someone who had been accused by 20 women of sexual assault in one form or another, or somebody who had been accused in his divorce papers of raping essentially his wife. Mm-hmm. Of somebody who was caught on tape, the idea that he would be able to simply, glide through this and become president, I think created a lot of the impetus for the Me Too movement. I think you're right about that. But here is and we're going to see a lot of fallout from this. Obviously, he's doing a town hall at CNN tonight. And
hosted by former Daily Caller White House correspondent Caitlin Collins. She's really rising up the ranks in CNN's pivot to the right.
And CNN they're gonna love this. I mean, they're saying that there's supposedly some squeamishness. They're gonna love this.
We're so uneasy by how much attention this is gonna garner.
Exactly. Yes, people are gonna tune in to see how he skates by this. He's claiming that he doesn't even know who she is.
Yeah,
he's never even met her.
Which is amazing because, again, the video from his deposition his deposition showed him confusing his ex-wife, Marla Maples, for E. Jean Carroll.
Right.
We're talking about Biden's mental fitness. I mean, yeah, the guy's old, but Trump's a lunatic.
But CNN is going to be happy about being associated. But it appears, I would imagine, that the Republicans who will be on the ticket with Donald Trump probably not going to be so excited. Igor Bobek at HuffPo asked some senators their responses, and it's on Twitter. Here they are. Here is Republican Senator Mike Rounds. Quote, "You never like to hear a former president has been found in civil court guilty of those type of actions."
I think you'd never hear that a president did those type of actions.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
But
you
it's
never like to.
Yeah. I mean, he could have showed more discipline. Again, we were joking about this before the show. It sounds like something a basketball coach would say when they've had a bad quarter.
Asked if he could support someone found liable of battery, Round said, "I would have a difficult time doing so." Mark this, you bookmark that,
Right.
and we'll see how many weeks it takes him to reverse himself. He heaped praise on Tim Scott. And maybe this is Tim Scott's opportunity to become vice president. That's what he's running for. And maybe well, yes, the head of the ticket was found liable of sexual assault, but Tim Scott.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Tim Scott.
Sure.
Tim Scott's running for president, but as Sam says, that's not it.
Senator Kennedy, according to Bobek, declined to comment when asking about the jury finding Trump liable of sexual battery. Quote, I don't have anything for you on that, because maybe he hasn't heard about it. That's possible. Do you want to take Kramer?
Kramer said he sees no reason to doubt the jury, but he won't rule out supporting Trump if it's him versus Biden. Quote, obviously, I'd rather have a president that isn't found liable for battery, he said. It's not a disqualifier, but it's certainly not a check in the plus column.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a neutral.
Some North Dakota honesty there.
Yeah, it's neutral, but I wouldn't say it's negative. I mean,
yeah, you know, it's about balancing pluses and minuses.
yeah, I mean, you know, what are you going to do? Youthful indiscretion when he was in his 40s or 50s. Cassidy on Trump's sexual battery verdict. Of course, it creates concern. How could it not create concern?
All this concern being created right before our eyes.
If what the woman says, and now he realizes, like, he can't make this about, like, whether she's credible or not, because the
brakes.
jury just found it. Well, if he's found liable, well, he has been, Chief. How could it be anything but create concern?
What does this create concern benchmark?
Everyone, so much concern being created in the universe. This one was one of my personal favorites, Rick Scott here.
Wait, well, let's just stay on Cassie for 1 second, because the best part of this is, hypothetically, it could create concern.
Yes.
But what about now that it's happened? If what you're saying is true, if your hypothetical is true,
Adding
it
that
would
soap to
create-
water could create a lot of bubbles.
Well, but the soap is in the water.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, that's well, that's what happens if the soap hits the water.
You're using the soap to cover up your private parts. Like,
Do
yep.
Rick Scott.
Rick Scott here. He said he didn't do it, but actually I don't know the facts of the case. I don't know the lady or anything. Asked if he could support someone found liable of sexual battery, he said, I don't know the facts. It's a New York jury too, which is like
racism.
Racism, exactly, or anti-Semitism. Take your pick. I don't really know, but okay, just go back for a second to the Rick Scott thing here, because when he says it's a New York jury too, and he doesn't know the facts. Yes, they didn't find him liable for rape, but they deliberated for 3 hours. For people that follow these kinds of cases, that's a short period of time.
Oh,
it
yeah.
did not take long for them to find him liable of the other two things, the defamation and the sexual abuse.
You know, I wonder how many victims Rick Scott knows, so that he can weigh in on a case. Steve Daines, who just endorsed Trump, reacts to the New York verdict. Sounds like President Trump's legal team will be appealing this decision.
Sounds like it.
Rubio says the jury is a joke. The whole case is a joke. There's Marco Rubio.
Wasn't he the more moderate wonderkind for the Republican Party?
Yeah.
Interesting. Also interesting, given the state that he's from, by the way, because DeSantis still has not officially run, and he's coming out hard in favor of Trump here.
Igor Bobek, Romney, the jury reached their decision, and I hope the jury of American people reached the same conclusion. We need a different nominee for the nominee of president. He has no position to be the president of the United States. That's the strongest, and that's still a little bit mealy mouth. Like, that's the guy who is irredeemable in Trump's eyes anyways.
Yeah. And Tuberville might be the number one. The number one reaction.
Yes, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Tommy Tuberville says the New York verdict, this is the one in which Donald Trump was found liable for sexual assault and defamation, makes me want to vote for him twice. It's literally like a Letterman bit. Top 10 reasons to vote for Donald Trump. Well, Tommy Tuberville says number one, liable for sexual assault.
I mean, there's...
Imagine, like, Tommy Tuberville had a position of authority at a university.
Yes, he was a
God knows what
head
went on with
football
that
coach.
football team.
Like, I mean, that's a very dark statement to make.
Maybe him
Very
and
dark.
Jim Jordan can trade stories.
All right, in a moment, we'll be talking to Dennis Tajer, Communications Committee Chair, Captain for the Allied Pilots Association. First, a couple words from our sponsors. Today, one of our sponsors, fastgrowingtrees.com. This is one of those sponsors which I have been using for years and just ended up one day. The media broker he had said Fast Growing Trees is interested in advertising. I'm like, perfect. All my Korean pear trees, my Arkansas black apple trees, the Cortland apple tree, all from fastgrowingtrees.com, and actually some grass, not like lawn grass, tall grass. But they have plant experts. They curate thousands of easy to grow plant, shrub, and tree varieties for your unique climate. Pop it in there. You get recommendations. You can get customized recommendations based upon what your specific needs are, where you're located, what zone you're in. And they have all sorts of resources to help you keep your plants growing healthy. You arrive your order online. Your plants arrive at your door in just a few days. With Fast Growing Trees, 30-day Alive and Thrive guarantee. You know everything will look great, fresh out of the box. That's really important, because if the tree is going to fail or the plant's going to fail, it's going to happen in those first 30 days. And you will know it, and you got a guarantee there. They will replace it for you if it is not doing well. And, the trees don't necessarily grow faster, but they're bigger. They're bigger, and they have such a wide selection. Like I say, I love fast-growing trees. The Arkansas Black is huge for me. People have a favorite tree. Join over 1.5 million happy fast-growing trees customers. Go to fastgrowingtrees.com/majority. Right now, you get 15% off your entire order. Get 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com/majority. The link and the code will be in the podcast and YouTube description. Also, right now, I'm wearing a very wrinkly shirt, but sometimes I don't like to wear a wrinkle shirt. Sometimes I like to actually look like I'm put together a little bit, but I don't like to iron.
Yeah.
Q Roan, their commuter collection. This has been like a radical thing for me. Roan has this commuter collection. It has the most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos. And the thing about this, it has, they say 4-way stretch. I don't know what that means. It's stretchy.
Yeah.
It's stretchy material.
The fabric goes north, south, east, west. So it doesn't wrinkle as well. And it stretches really easy.
It doesn't wrinkle, period.
It's kind of like the material from Lululemon or whatever, those nice workout clothes, but it looks like professional
That's
clothing.
the thing. I have a button-down white shirt that I wear if I'm going to somewhere fancy or to go to a funeral, but also going out. I mean, I don't go to fancy places. I'm just thinking the last couple of times I've worn
so you
a nice
wore
shirt.
it to a funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. And it looks completely like it's a dress shirt, but it's significantly more comfortable. It breathes, and I wash it in laundry, and it comes out. I put it on a hanger. Even if I didn't put it on a hanger quick, it is not wrinkled. It has what they call Gold Fusion anti-odor technology. Fresh, clean smelling all day. This is the kind of shirt that that's why they call it, I guess, a commuter shirt. Mm-hmm. It's also a type of thing you would travel with. You don't need to wash it as much.
Yeah.
When you do, therethere's no dry cleaner necessary.
And you don't have to iron it when it's wrinkled in your luggage or whatever.
No, it's amazing. I'm basically have thrown out half my shirts and replaced them with these Roan dress shirts. But they also have, they also have polos like this. They have pants. Really fantastic, comfortable, and looks great. The commuter collection can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to Roan, RHONE.com/majority report. Use the promo code majority report. Save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to Roan.com/majority report. Use the code majority report. It is time to find your corner office comfort. All right, quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Dennis Tajer. He is the Communications Committee Chair Captain for the Allied Pilots Association. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigland on the Majority Report. Joining us now, Dennis Tajer. He is the Communications Committee Chair Captain for the Allied Pilots Association. Dennis, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Tell us about, give us like some of the stats on the Allied Pilot Association. I know, like within, it seems to me, the airline industry, there are multiple pilot associations / unions for different airlines. Is that the way it works?
That's true. And let's cut to the chase. We're unions. APA, the Allied Pilots Association, is an independent union. Although we work closely with ALPA, the Airline Pilot Association. They're an affiliated union, and they represent, we're American Airlines, mainline ops. They represent Delta, United, FedEx, and a myriad of other regional affiliates. And then there's independent unions at Southwest Airlines, SWAPA. I say these very quickly because we work with those unions frequently, particularly during what we'll call pattern negotiations, which is happening right now.
Well,
All right. Oh, sorry. Go.
No, it's okay. I mean, I was curious though what the numbers are though for percentages of commercial pilots. I was saying to Sam before the show, my uncle's a member of ALPA. He's a United pilot. What percentage of commercial pilots are unionized, and how many of them do fall under kind of your jurisdiction?
Yeah, well, we have 15,000 pilots in American Airlines. It's all the mainline ops. I think ALPA represents in the aggregate some over 60,000 pilots. So in the U.S., it's a rare event to not have pilots under the blanket of union representation. And I'll tell you, that started years ago. As your uncle flying for United may be aware of this. There's a legacy that's of unions in the pilot world because of safety. Years ago, and we see this happening from time to time with those smaller ops that don't have unions. They come up and they say, Captain Tajer, what's the problem? Well, the airplane's not safe or the weather's not safe. And they go, great, we disagree. If you're not going to fly it, you're fired. I've got somebody else to do the work. So that was the birth of unions. And of course, work rules, which can support safety, and then just compensation. As we see now in modern day aviation, it's deep into six figures just to get the certificates, let alone the experience. So having compensation that meets that level of training and dedication, the many years it takes, sometimes takes a collective voice.
I have to say, I would be terrified to get on a plane without a union pilot, because I mean, just from that dynamic that you've described there, the last thing you want is a pilot who is worried about how am I going to put food on the table, how am I going to pay for the healthcare for my kids, or whatever it is, because I'm complaining about the safety of the aircraft. I mean, that is not the situation you want to be in. So. APA represents 15,000 American Airline pilots. I want to talk about what happened with Delta, and I want to talk about Southwest. But I guess it was a couple weeks ago, you guys took a vote. This is a very unified union in terms of this vote. Give us the numbers on that vote in terms of the strike authorization.
Yeah, it was a very successful authorization vote. We had 96% of our pilots voted, and over 99% of them voted in the affirmative to authorize our leadership to initiate a strike. We've seen that at Delta before they got their deal. Southwest pilots, last week, Monday, we had a national picket event for our union. On the back of or on the news of the strike authorization, and the turnout for it was beyond our wildest dreams. We're still seeing media articles covering it. I just read one from the Cambodian Times. Think about that, covering a union issue in the U.S. So the Southwest pilots are starting their authorization vote as we speak. So this is actually a good sign. It puts a lot of uncertainty in things, and we'll get to how the Railway Labor Act works. But this means that deals that must happen to serve our passengers and to maintain or to reestablish reliability. We've seen the airlines properly take the heat for not being prepared for the recovery after $54 billion was invested, not only to keep employees on the property and trained, but also to keep the equipment rolling. They didn't do any of that. So when the recovery came in strong, they turned to the frontline workers and said, guess what? You're going to do more with less. So metaphors abound, but they said batter up, and they handed us a hockey stick. And that's what we're trying to correct right now through our negotiations. And we've got solutions. But what we're assured of is that we cannot have a repeat of what happened last summer and the summer before. So management teams are going to have to step up and join us. And at Delta, they have a deal now. One of the biggest things in Delta wasn't just the recovery of their compensation, which had been years since any increase in that, just as with us. But the world changed post-pandemic. And now workers are saying, hey, wait a minute, as a pilot, I can't fly remotely, but I know what my neighbor is doing, that professional that was trained and invested as much as I did. I need to have a work-life balance. And that's been a fundamental shift for us. And I've been at this 30 years. I have never seen such a large demographic of pilots say, hey, look, I know the money's coming, but I've got to have a life and a support system that enables me to take this on. And so that's really where we're at, as a crossroads, a pivot point. And management used to just say, well, we'll pay them and they'll show up. It's taken more than money. We know the money's there. So it's actually ironic, because American Airlines itself and other airlines have talked to that. They've actually said, our CEO, who we interact with frequently, right on up to yesterday, our president met with him. He said, I've got like 30 to 50 airplanes, told Wall Street this, that I can't utilize because I don't have the assets in place. Think of that capital, hundreds of millions of dollars. They don't have the workers to get it done, and particularly the pilots. And the good news is we have answers for them and we have solutions. But every day that they waste talking to Wall Street and don't talk to us to get it settled is another airplane that's not flying. And ultimately ticket prices go up because the supply is not out there. I'm digressing, but this is so connected. Yeah. And the union effort, not only for safety, but to actually produce a company that is producing even more profits, is most importantly reliable to the consumer. Man, this is just one stage, and we're all on that stage. And right now, the world's watching.
And just to be clear, you know what it sounds like what you're talking about, and we're seeing this like in different retail, fights and workers having to be on call for a certain period of time and not necessarily getting credit. I mean, the dynamics obviously with piloting is somewhat different, but it really is about scheduling and how flights go back and forth, I would imagine, and where pilots are going to be stationed and their relationship to those flights. And if I hear what you're saying is that you guys have ideas about how to do that. It may involve hiring some more pilots or not necessarily, but that the airline is trying to do it in a way that's going to maximize their profits, but they haven't. There were 4%, I think it was last year, of flights that were canceled because they couldn't figure this out. Are they doing it because they have some calculation where Wall Street wants a certain I don't know, cost
lack of
profit ratio,
right?
or lack of redundancy. I mean, are we seeing a play out? I mean, you mentioned the Railway Labor Act, which just because of cross-country transportation includes airlines. It's a very old bill, and it limits the ability of pilots to strike in the same way that in some ways railway workers did.
Yes.
But what we saw with the Railway Act was these transit companies coming in, trying to diminish the number of railway workers they employ. They'll give them more money, but they'll put them through hell. They won't even let them have sick days because somebody from McKinsey or whoever it was said, this is the way that you're going to cut down on your thing. It increases lack of safety for the general communities that these trains go through. Are we seeing a similar dynamic play out here?
Exactly. And, you hit on all the points. I'm smiling because of our enthusiasm for, you don't have to be an expert in the industry to see what's going on. And here's the irony. It isn't so much for saying, hey, you need to hire more pilots. You're underutilizing us. You're recklessly utilizing us, pushing us to the maximums. We have legal limits and then human limits where we fatigue out. And you're saying, well, I'll just hire more pilots. you're actually costing the enterprise more money to run the operation than if you ran it rationally and worked with us. You mentioned sick call. This is the first time in 30 years at American, one of our singular issues in the tail end of this, which we hope is the tail end of negotiations, is our sick accrual and how we actually are charged it. It comes down to management has built trips now that are 4 and 5 days long. That's a long time away, and it's tough on our pilot families. But if a pilot calls in sick on one of those days, that amount of flying time will use up most of their sick time. So a pilot can actually have down to just 2 sick events per year before they're out of sick time. That's triggered by these longer trips. And here's another thing. We've actually got to get a hold of this. We've gone to management, and I call in sick on a 5-day trip. Then they take the whole 5-day trip, and now I'm sick on it, get charged for it. And some other pilot has to go out there and fly it. So they have to staff for that. We've said, how about this? I call in sick, and I've got a 5-day trip. Maybe I'm good after 2 days, and I can come back to work for those 3. I'd like to preserve my sick time, and I can fly for you. And management says, yeah, we're not so interested in that. Are you kidding me? You're short on people, and I'm coming up with an idea that helps my family out, but also helps you with your staffing issue. A lot of words to say there.
Well, I mean, it sounds irrational to me, and you're saying it's irrational, but do you guys have any insight as to why they're doing it? Is it just sheer hubris, or is it that there's somebody who has a calculation that says, if we do it XYZ, it will look better to Wall Street. The stock will go up. My options are worth more, and that what we're really seeing is not necessarily a C-suite that is interested in the most efficient way of managing this for the sake of the airline, on time and for non-cancellations, and certainly not in the interest of the people working there, but are in the interest of me as an individual with my stock options and how Wall Street's going to react to the type of numbers they see.
That's a great point. And I actually am the chairman of our investor relations committee. Airline pilot unions actually go to Wall Street. We go to the analysts and we talk about issues that matter to them. And the one that you just hit, are they worried about the bottom line? They should be, but here's the idea. They're actually wasting the asset that they have. That example that I gave you, and we have a myriad of others. We go to the investors, the institutional investors that own over half of American Airlines, and saying, here's where our ideas would actually improve the margin. And we talk in that language because the numbers check. And I think the reason management is just not ready to engage in it is they're afraid. They're afraid to trust the pilot that they will come to work to ease their sick usage. We don't know. They have not verbalized it, saying, no, we like the way it is. Are you kidding me? You like the way it is? The way it is in this issue is underperforming its potential. So
is it the precedent? Is it the precedent that they don't want to set to give pilots and labor more power and agency over their own employment in this way?
Yeah, that you're hitting. I'll hit the buzzword. While they laud entrepreneurship out there in the free market, when it comes to unions saying, look, this is, and I come from blue collar union family, but this is not your dad's union. This is a modern union that knows that if the company thrives and we're not exploited, and that's not done on our backs, we can broaden that margin. So they talk a lot about culture and about respect, but when it comes down to it, if you don't have the work rules that set that up, and you may have a CEO that talks a lot about it and does some of it, but those CEOs move along. I'm on my 6th CEO here at American Airlines. Right. And that core issue, that the buzzword that we have is respect. If you're not respecting my schedule, chances are you're not respecting the passenger schedule, and you're sure as heck not respecting my family schedule. I'd go out on a trip. I'll go out on one in a couple days. It's a 2-day trip. I'll pack for 4. I don't know where I'm going to end up. I don't know what to tell my family. I hope I'm back for Mother's Day. But if things don't change in the way they operate this, that certainty of my schedule, thus our passenger schedules, is up in the air. And that's just not the way we've run this business. And that's why you're seeing across the industry, every pilot union is saying, look, I know the money's there, it's coming, but I need some level of work-life balance and scheduling practices that I can count on. We're professionals. We know that weather hits, and sometimes we get an extra day out on the road. But when it's clear skies, as Secretary Buttigieg just said, clear sky cancellations and disruptions, that means somebody's not living up to the contract of carrying passengers, and that would be on management.
Is there a different, mentioned like the C-suite culture, I guess, that really doesn't necessarily want to give up control, even when it's a more rational decision. Is there a change in the culture of the members in your union? I mean, are we seeing, 96% of the union voting 99% in favor? I mean, that's pretty lockstep. Are you noticing a change in the nature of like your union members? Are they more willing to engage in this type of militancy?
Well,
maybe that's not the right word, militancy.
Okay, I understand.
I mean, are they willing to be more aggressive in dealing with management, I guess?
They are affirming their willingness, their commitment to fight for their families, and not just for the dollars, but for that actual, you can have the world's highest paid pilots, but the world's most frustrated pilots. That's just not going to make for a good business plan, nor is it going to make for a place that people want to work. So yes, we've seen a change. And our survey coming into this contract, we survey our pilots frequently. And of course, compensation is going to be in there. But when you take the aggregate of two areas we measured, work-life balance and scheduling practices. Work-life balance is your monthly schedule, your ability to move that around. And scheduling practices while you're out on the line and them changing your schedule. When you take those two together, they became number one. That is a demographics change, and it's a good change. And it's one that has been exacerbated by management post-pandemic coming in and raising the pressure up on that work-life balance by scheduling us in these irrational trips, these 4 and 5 day trips. They've had to overstaff the airline because it's crumbling under their desire to go grab that revenue. The CEO of Delta confessed on CNBC, and it was the righteous one. I don't mean that as a pejorative. He said, what happened was it was a desert of revenue during the pandemic. And then in this recovery, we saw it out there and we just went to get it and we overdid it. You sure did.
It's happening all across the board in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Dennis Tajer, when will we know? Like, with all that's involved in the Railway Labor Act, like walk us out, give us a potential timeline of what could happen going forward.
It's a great question, and it's the right question to ask. A strike authorization vote is a part of the process. Being in negotiations for the last 4 years is certainly initiation of that. This is the next step. It requires Railway Labor Act, in order to protect interstate commerce, requires a process that is overseen by the federal government. So the NMB gets involved. There's negotiations overseen by them. We're not at that point. We're hoping to get a deal through our own resources here. But they would have to go through that. They would have to declare an impasse. There would be a 30-day cooling off. So some have said, well, is the strike going to happen next week? No, it isn't. It's a process, but it's affirmation that process has begun. Here's the worst case scenario. Nothing changes at American Airlines, and the last 2 summers that were horrid are only capped by one that's even worse. Doing nothing. The strike is got a lot of media attention, rightfully so, but the real issue is we're in May. We're just talking about the Memorial Day travel season. And here's something interesting. Just learned this yesterday. During the summer, last summer, we had an IT issue, and our president of our union and the CEO of American Airlines, the one in charge now, had a conversation over a weekend. I know because I was on duty on the 4th of July weekend on this topic. They basically came to an agreement to resolve this IT problem. They were going to test overtime flying on the holidays, pre-plotted, so a family could plan a month ahead of time. Hey, I can work on that holiday or the critical day around there. Thanksgiving and Christmas was a raving success because of that. We wanted this to go throughout the whole year. Labor Relations said, no, we're just going to try a sample of this. Here we are coming up on the summer. Our CEO didn't even know that we did not have those provisions enacted as we come into the summer. That was stunning to us. Now, we have it in our proposal, but man, oh man, if you don't know what saved you through the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays can save you in the summer and you don't have it, you're walking out in that bright sun with no sunscreen and no hat on. They're going to get burned.
Well, I'm glad that guy's not flying my plane. I can tell you that right now.
But it kind of shows you corporations are big. We're empathetic. We know. I mean, they're not. There's other labor groups. Our flight attendants are fighting for a contract. The CWA is in a process of a contract negotiation. I don't expect the CEO to be in tune with every detail, but I sure as heck expect them to know when their enterprise is at risk for performance, and the answer is sitting across the desk from us.
Yep. Dennis Tajer, the Communications Committee Chair Captain for Allied Pilots Association. Thanks for your time today. Appreciate it. We'll be following this. Hopefully it'll be resolved quickly, but if not, I guess it'll be over the next several months. Thanks so much, Dennis.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Greg Iwinski, he is on. Where is he? Do we know?
On the picket line in New York.
Where in New York?
I don't know where in New York.
Okay, let's find out where he is on the picket line, and we'll be talking to him in just a moment from the Writers Guild of America East, council member and member of the WGA negotiating committee. We'll be right back after this. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigland on the Majority Report. Joining us is Greg Iwinski. He is a Writers Guild of America East council member and member of the WGA negotiating committee. Greg, you are out on the streets picketing right now, and you told us you're in between. You're out West 22nd Street, in between HBO and Amazon. Is that it?
30.
Yeah, in between on 33rd, in between Amazon and HBO.
Hudson Yards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, and so
yeah, I'm in Hudson Yards.
How's it looking out there? A lot of people out there, it looks like.
Yeah, it's looking great. We go all the way down the block and come back up. We've got the band from the Late Show with Colbert here, playing music for everyone. Just had some people drop off pizzas, and we've got incredible cross-field solidarity. IATSE is here. SAG is here. The Teamsters are here. DSA is here. Also,
we're losing you a little bit, Greg.
so sorry.
Take a step back to where you were before.
Oh, well.
I think a lot of people. Okay.
All right, you're good. You're good now.
So sorry.
No
That's
worries.
okay.
Am I good? Okay.
Yeah, you're good now. That's
Okay.
a perfect place to stay. Don't move.
Okay, I'll stay still.
All right, so give us a sense of like what. Now, I know you were a writer for Colbert's show and for John Oliver's show.
Yeah.
And then who was Amani Jones?
Amani Jones, yeah, I wrote up the first season.
And so and there are two essentially Writers Guild I guess unions, the Writers Guild East and West. What's the relationship between those two?
Right now, I think it's stronger than it's ever been. I think that most late night writers are out in the East. It's literally based on where you geographically start your career. If you're East or West, your first job's in New York, you're in East. Your first job's in LA, you're in West. But most late night writers are in the East because the shows are in the East. And I don't. They're two slightly different guilds, but they both are protecting the same kinds of writers. And right now, we negotiate as a unit. So right now, it is a strike of the entire writers guild.
And so, what? Give us a sense of what the major issues are. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit. A big part of this is the changes that have taken place since 2000, the 2008, 2009 strike, and particularly in sort of like the gigification of a writer's job. Tell us about that.
Yeah, what's changed is that writing a television show has turned into a thing that has been stretched out into a series of small little deep jobs that are taking what was a career and a craft and made it into a TaskRabbit kind of system. You know, you have people breaking seasons of shows and coming up with seasons of shows. They never write the actual show. Then a different person freelances the show. Then a different person finishes the show. That's not a way to train new people, to build, to get our next talent to learn about how to do the job. It's a destructive system that was implemented by people who don't understand how good television is made. They don't understand that how we've done this for all these years is not because we cling to old traditions, but because we found the way that works to make us and the studios very successful.
Yeah.
And now that's being broken by, new people have come in, and I think you've seen big tech a lot. They come in and their genius plan is to add an app and make the labor protections act like it's the 1930s. And that's what they're trying to do here. And it's not going to work with us. That's not something we're going to accept.
It's no coincidence, as you say, that companies like Netflix and Amazon Prime that have their roots in the gig economy and in tech, where a lot of like this kind of Uberification of jobs has come to pass, that's their approach in many ways to writing television. As you say, like, it's got to affect the quality. Can you speak to how this piecemeal gig approach has affected the quality of the writing in many ways?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about our showrunners who are, if you're not in TV, a showrunner is the person at the top who's writing, but also doing a lot of producing. And they're doing writing that, they're the person who's writing it start to finish. They have the idea, they're writing it, they're writing while you're shooting, they're in the edit room thinking about everything. They are the kind of writer of writers of the show. And so that showrunner is left in a place where they're writing many of the scripts by themselves. They don't have help to write scripts and rewrite scripts. And then in post, as things are changing on set, you're writing and changing stuff on set, you're doing that. They have no one with them. And they're stretched thin, which makes the show quality go down because they are so tired and worn out. I think the problem is that for many of these companies, you have people who are vice presidents saying things on the record like that we don't believe in quality. We just believe that people have a lot of different tastes. And if your only goal is the stock price going up and you stop caring about if your product is good or if your customers like it, then you are breaking the industry you have entered into. And that has happened with so many industries where you have, not only are you given a product that doesn't work, you have no one to complain to. You have no, if you go to a hotel and it doesn't work, there's a manager and a chain or whatever. You go to an Airbnb, now you've made the person renting out is now a hotel manager who has to try to fix your problem. And if they had to go to Airbnb, they have no one to help them. This anonymous giant corporate structure. That is the attempt here. That writers are moved down to simply the lowest cog on a wheel. We're brought in by the day to write one piece of content handed to us. We hand it back. We go home. We hope we get called the next day. That is just something we cannot agree to do.
On top of, Greg, the what it's going to do to quality, and I think to a certain extent the producers are like, well, if everybody's dealing with the same challenges, as long as the tide goes out for everybody, we're still going to be in a good position. But what about from the worker's from the perspective as a writer, as a worker. Like, I mean, it's pretty clear to me, having had some experience in that industry, that if you don't have people who are engaged in the writing of this material on an ongoing, daily, long-term basis, that the quality is going to diminish. I mean, that's quite obvious to me. But from the perspective of like having to work as a writer, what does it do in terms of your ability to have some semblance? I mean, it's not a business where you have a tremendous amount of job security to begin with, but this seems to me to make it completely insecure. It diminishes your ability to count on things, to have a family, to do whatever it is that you're going to do. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely does. Look, I work in late night, and I got my first late night job the same week that my wife told me she was pregnant with our first kid. And so I needed security. And in late night, you have 13-week cycles. You're hired 3 months essentially at a time. Then you see if you come back. You see if you come back. That's our job security. And the response from the studios in this night negotiation was, what if you had a day rate? And I can't get an apartment in New York on a day rate. I can't put my kid in school on a day rate. I can't make sure my family is going to be secure on a day rate. That's not real. That's just not like, that's not a career. That is a gig economy. But also, running a late night show with new people hired every day is like hiring an NBA team where there's new players every day. You just pick random guys, hire them for the day. There's no chemistry. There's no relationship to the work. There's no getting to know the character. The lessons that you learn making a show, those are so valuable to that show. You think about and there's examples like Parks and Rec. Season 1 is not like the other seasons. All these shows where they adjust, they grow, the people learn, the people making the show learn how they want to make it better. As we stretch this out into a little gig thing, there is none of that communal knowledge. There's no built up wisdom. None of that happens. It just becomes people dropping in to do one little step after the studios have had an AI pump out what needs to happen in this episode. That's going to be horrible television to watch. And they don't have ratings. They're afraid of having ratings. I understand that they want to live in a world where there's no audience feedback. Eventually, audience will get sick of that because there are other places that aren't TV. You can watch content. You can play great video games. You can go online and see what people are doing on there. There's other stuff to do. So they need to be concerned about quality, even if they don't understand how to achieve it right now.
Talk to me to the extent that because, it was interesting. The last time we had a writer's strike, I remember it quite clearly. I had a deal for a pilot that fell through. The paperwork went in on a Friday, and on Monday it all went away. But there was the relationship between the Writers Guild and the Directors Guild, who then subsequently had contract negotiations. I can't remember if it was a month or two. I can't remember. It was so long ago. But there was a sense a little bit that the Directors Guild had sort of like had undercut a little bit at that time. This is again 10 years ago or more, the writers. And I just remember the Writers Guild was not as unified as it seems today. Like the vote at that time, I think, was just as high. The percentage of people who voted was just as high 10, 12 years ago, who voted for the strike. But the percentage of people who actually voted was like half of what it was this time around. There's a sense, and as I'm a SAG-AFTRA member these days, I haven't written anything in over a decade, but there seems to me to be a sense of both within the Writers Guild, a lot more solidarity, and across the unions, a lot more solidarity. What is your sense of that, and what are the implications of both the director's contract coming up in the next, number of weeks or months, and the actors as well?
The directors started today, so they'll start their negotiations today. Their contract expires on June 30th. SAG is supposed to start a couple weeks, I think, on June 7th, and their contract expires June 30th. So I think the clock is ticking, to get all of these deals done. But yeah, there is the unity inside the guild is stronger than it's ever been, even across sectors. You have people in late night who can explain to you the issues in screenwriting, people in screenwriting who can explain what's happening in episodic TV. You have people across parts of writing that are fighting for each other and understand what each other need. And that also extends past, past just us into directing and to acting because, actors are concerned about AI. They're concerned about What happens if all the reshoots are done with the digital double? What if they don't need you for ADR because they just have the rights to your likeness? All of these directors, what if all the second units are now done through AI or some computer thing? What kind of residuals are we going to get for these shows that are hit? There are some things that cross. I know for us, it's like, we hope that the WGA gets the best deal possible for the things that matter to them. Some of them cross over, but a lot of them don't. Mini rooms don't cross over. Late night doesn't cross over. There's some of this that the studios are going to have to address us directly on. But across the board for the directors, I hope that they fight hard for what they deserve. And I hope that that's a contract that they ultimately get. But they know that we are with them and we are with SAG. There's a bunch of SAG actors behind us right now, SAG after people who've shown up here and in Los Angeles. There's a real unity here because, it's the mistake of you got everyone in the whole industry mad at you as a big corporation. We're gonna start teaming up. As the Teamsters said, it's gonna take all of us, to take them down. So
we're starting to see, some instances of some actors, not engaging these process. Their contract requires them to work. And I know that SAG-AFTRA has, set out like you have to work in these situations. But there are some situations, like Vice President Harris just said she's not going to cross the picket line to do a previously scheduled, I think it was MTV health thing that I think they've postponed until after the strike. Biden yesterday, a couple of weeks ago, apparently they said he wasn't going to weigh in on this, but yesterday he said he hopes that you get a fair deal, which, it's not, he's not out there walking the picket line with you, but it's better than him saying like, I hope Viacom prevails.
I'd rather have him on our side than not. Helps as the president of America.
Indeed. So what can folks do? Like, we have a big audience in New York. We have a big audience in LA. Those are basically where you're seeing most of the pickets. Are there any like in Atlanta? Are we seeing any in like, I don't know.
There was one in Philly today. There's some popping up all over. It's, we're trying to get things organized everywhere. So there's a lot of stuff that pops up last minute or trying to figure out what we can do. I know in New York and LA, anyone who's watching who wants to help out, you can come to a picket. You don't have to be in television to come to a picket. Come, march, support people, meet people, say hi. And also you can donate to the Entertainment Community Fund, which is a fund that gives grants to people who work in television. And that's not just writers and it's not just directors. We're talking about, assistants and writers' assistants and, people in editing and in footage and in all of these areas, that have been impacted as well, because we want to make sure that the pain is directed at the studio, not at the other people who work for the studio.
That's a big dilemma, I know, for friends of mine, is that there's so many people who work on a production, and it is such a collaborative exercise. Anybody who withholds their labor is going to be, it's going to have implications for other people around. And, I know I've heard a lot of like anecdotal, but stories of, writers helping out other, people on productions, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a great way to help. What else? Anything else that folks can do?
Also, I think you can, again, these people, the public image of these companies matters a lot to them. So if you are not tweeting, you can tweet at writers in support, but tweet at these companies and tell them that you are not supporting them, that they need to give a fair deal. Let's blow up those social media channels and those handles with the feedback of the people who are giving them that money. Because again, if all their value is based off a stock price, just a number on a ticker, like what people think about your company has a much bigger impact. So I think that people can reach out and make their voices heard that way as well.
Greg Iwinski, Writers Guild of America East, council member and member of the WGA negotiating committee. Thanks so much for joining us. Good luck, and hopefully I'll see you out there shortly.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you.
All right, folks. I'm going to take a quick break, head into the fun half of the program, wherein we will have fun. What you just texted me, we'll go into that whole thing.
Tease it.
Okay, well, here's the thing.
Okay.
Everything was reported yesterday. It's reported that Dianne Feinstein is traveling to Washington, D.C. And I'm like, why are people reporting that she's traveling to Washington, D.C.? We were talking like a 3.5 hour flight that it takes, maybe 4 hour from
That's not like she's
San
going on a
Francisco.
transcontinental
It is,
railroad.
yeah.
Right, right.
And I'm
We were like,
that's what I said to
go my
Bradley.
horse
Like,
and
I was
buggy.
like, why are you handing me a story that says it's reported she's traveling to D.C.? That was reported yesterday. Was she going by horse buggy carriage?
It's funny, like you look at newspapers in like 1880, and it's like Ulysses Grant was in town the other day on like a
it's
whistle
like,
stop.
wait a second. Why is this the reporting? And something sounded fishy to me about the whole thing, which is why I headlined it. I said, after 91 votes missed, Dianne Feinstein supposedly back in the Senate. And now...
All right, well, we'll talk about it in the fun half. This is like the concept of a tease. I know. I knew that would infuriate you. That was, yeah.
And this Dick Durbin blue strip thing, my God, I'm telling you, folks, I'm on the edge.
Wouldn't it be fun to get a whole bunch of callers who were like 20-year-old Dick Durbin fans?
I mean...
You're saying that's not you? No.
I'm serious. I'm serious. I'm on the edge here. Honestly, I was like... They better not be doing any Senate softball games anytime soon. Let's put it that way.
I didn't think you were going to say it.
I'm sorry. I'm mad.
I specifically didn't allude to that.
Jeez.
I'm a good softball player.
Right.
Give me a bat. Hit. I'll play the whole team against them. Honestly, though, like if they felt like they fielded a Senate softball team.
No, we got you.
We one person.
You'll heckle them.
Yeah.
No, I want to play.
Yeah, right.
Folks, just remember, it's your support that's make this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajority.com. When you do, you not only help the show survive and thrive, but you also get the free of commercials. Although last night I was on the movie night extravaganza, which was a ton of fun. We talked about 3 Days of the Condor. And Conan Neutron said that he didn't even know about Cedar Seats because he skips the commercials.
Oh, yeah.
Folks, don't miss out on the deals that we're offering you. And I also have to say, like, I could do like a product aggregation thing because none of the products that we advertise for, maybe there's one or two that I don't personally like use on a regular basis. That I like literally like the product in some way. Trying to think if there was ever anything. I feel like there had to. Oh yeah, it was the bra company. But I didn't.
Third Love.
Yeah, exactly. But I had
It's a good company.
I had Milo do the testing. So
Okay. Well,
I'm
now,
just
you,
saying-
now you have a lady on staff, so I can do the testing.
exactly.
There you go.
But she was Milo's. I was like, can you get me more of those bras? I'm like, dude, take it easy. That's not the point. JustCoffee.coop, fair trade. I got thrown off by the whole Senate thing. JustCoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. ESVN.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the NBA playoffs. I mean, look, the Knicks are in bad shape too, but we spoke about James Harden. We talked about Jokic versus the Suns owner, which was very fun, and the Cinderella story, Florida Panthers in the NHL, which is an incredible story as well. YouTube.com/ESVN show.
Matt, what's happening on Left Reckoning?
Yeah, last night on Left Reckoning, we had Gus Bova, a Texas journalist, to talk about Elon Musk, misclassifying, using contractors and then not reporting the death of a contractor for heat stroke at one of his giant new factory plants. So we talked to Gus about that and like the reality of, things sold by like legislatures that bend over backwards for people like Elon Musk, saying this is going to bring the future and high-paying jobs, and actually what it brings is contractors dying of heat stroke. And we also had Harvey Kay on to talk a little bit about Biden and Marianne Williamson, and he joined us for the post game for an hour and 40 minutes. So get your fill of us and Harvey. We talked about Marianne and also the dirty break strategy with regards to the Democratic Party and other stuff like that. So patreon.com/leftreckoning.
That Gus Bova story is on the American Prospect and cross-posted with the Texas Observer. So definitely check it out.
Really?
It's a very, very
It's
good,
an amazing
very good story.
It's a magazine-style piece, but Gus is a great writer. And the discussion of what happens when you undergo heat stroke, which is like your body can
your organs basically fry.
Cook yourself because your internal temperature gets much higher than the temperature outside because the heat and your the amount you've been working has basically led to your typical exhaust mechanisms breaking down. So all of a sudden you're
trapping the heat.
Exactly, it just skyrockets because you're an engine of heat yourself. And about like the contractor thing and like do things get termed accidents or are they injustices and that sort of stuff. So it was a great talk with Gus.
All right, 646-257-3920. We'll turn on the phones in a bit. You can IM the show if you have the app at majorityapp.com and you're a member. See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Oh, no.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just want to degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Denner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males,
psych, fuck them. Snowflake says what?
What?
Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keep it at 100. Can't knock the hustle. Come on, fuck them. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, Jew boy.
I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are black. Africans are back. Come on.